Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tearing down a pretty provocative and controversial framework for seduction. Think of it as taking Robert Greene's classic laws of power and twisting them for the world of relationships.
The whole thing kicks off with this really dramatic question. Right from the get-go, it's reframing love not as a partnership, but as a strategic conquest. I mean, wow. Okay, let's get into this.
So, right off the bat, you see this massive split. On one side, you've got traditional romance, and on the other, what this framework calls the dark game, a system built entirely on psychological tactics. Now, just to be clear, our job here isn't to tell you this is a good idea. We're here to break down exactly how it's supposed to work. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to deconstruct 4 specific laws that this text pulls out. We'll look at the tactics, the supposed psychology behind them, and really importantly, the pretty stark warnings that come with each one. All right, let's start with Law 4. The whole idea here is that silence creates mystery, right? It forces the other person to fill in the blanks, and they almost always fill them with their own fantasies about you. And the psychology it claims is behind this is kind of wild. It's this idea of seductive voids. Basically, we humans hate a vacuum, a void. So when you're quiet, the other person rushes to fill that silence with their own ideas and hopes, and in a way, they end up seducing themselves. So how do you supposedly do this? Well, the framework lays out a really clear 3-step method. It's all about making a bigger impact with way fewer words. And this table here, this really shows it in action. You can see the difference between what you don't say versus what you do. It even gives this anecdote about a guy called the Architect's Whisper, who used this exact technique to seem incredibly deep and mysterious. But here's the twist. His silence wasn't about power. It was actually just a mask for his own insecurities. But see, right after telling you how to do it, the framework hits you with this huge warning. Is all that mystery really worth the mask? Is the power you get from it worth the resentment it can create? And this is a reoccurring theme. The source material itself is constantly flagging its own ethical tightropes.
Okay, so we've covered silence. Now the strategy escalates. Let's get into Law 16, the art of absence. This one treats your attention like a super scarce resource. The less you're around, the more valuable you become. Simple supply and demand, right?
And the strategy here is all about engineering that sense of longing. You build up all this momentum over a few dates, and then, poof, you vanish for a bit. The whole point is to create this cycle of being present, then absent, to keep them wanting more. It's designed to make them idealize you while you're gone. Now, the framework is really clear that this is a high-risk, high-reward move. There's this story about the phantom investor who literally disappears for 2 weeks just to become unforgettable. But, and this is a big but, the potential downside is huge. This can easily tip over into amplifying paranoia, and let's be honest, just being straight up toxic. All right, so the third law totally flips the script. We go from silence and absence to overwhelming presence. This is Law 23. The idea is to concentrate all of your energy onto one person, to make them feel like they are the absolute center of the entire universe. This is all about making them feel uniquely chosen, like they're the only person you see. The source material has this great line. It describes it as going from flirting like scattered fireworks to being a laser beam that pierces them soul deep. But you guessed it, here comes another severe warning. The story used here is about the surgeon's scalpel, a doctor who won someone over with this intense focus, but he completely burned out his career and totally lost himself in the process. It's a huge cautionary tale about how easily possession can disguise itself as passion. And that brings us to the final law, which the text presents as the most potent and maybe the most dangerous one of all. It's about creating a shared mythology, a private world. Basically, building a cult of two, with you as the leader. So what is a cult of two? It's this dynamic where you craft a shared vision, a kind of gospel for your relationship, like it's us against the world. You're tapping into that deep human need for meaning and destiny, and positioning your relationship as this fated escape from a boring, ordinary life. This is framed as the absolute peak of the whole system, but it's also, by far, the most dangerous. The warning is just crystal clear. When these little cults collapse, the fallout is absolutely devastating. The text even compares it to a form of brainwashing.
Okay, so we've seen the individual pieces, but how do they all fit together? Because this framework doesn't just throw tactics at you, it lays out a full-blown master strategy. And here it is, the blueprint for weaving the web. Step 1, on the first date, you use silence to create that initial mystery. Then you use absence to turn that mystery into real longing. You come back with that intense focus to make them feel chosen. And finally, you seal the deal by creating that shared vision, that cult of two. It's all designed to build what it calls a deep, dark love. But the whole thing ends not with a victory lap, but with one last chilling warning. Power whispers, but regret screams. Man, that quote just captures the entire takeaway, doesn't it? The argument is that, yeah, these laws might forge a powerful, addictive bond, but it's not a real partnership. It's built on a foundation of illusion. And what the text concludes is that these laws end up trapping you in the very web you created. In the end, the source actually advises the reader to go seek a real connection instead. The price for this kind of power, it seems, is your own soul, leaving you completely alone inside the very system you built. And that leaves us with the one huge question that this whole framework just forces you to confront. When does strategy become manipulation? It's such a fine line, and this code, it lives right on that edge, leaving it up to you to figure out what it all really means.